But in countries like the US, in Ivy League especially, you can study, you can take a major in literature, you can take a minor in economics, you can take a minor in theater, you can take a minor in statistics. So basically, the education system allows you to study any kind of subject that you are interested in. We studied economics, we studied filmmaking, we studied literature. So basically, we studied everything. And what happened was the objective of that was to sort of equip our minds with all kinds of knowledge. Had I not studied liberal arts in my Young India Fellowship, I guess I would only be looking at my future and my career from a social work perspective. I feel that, you know, having studied liberal arts really created that foundation for me. I had no idea what liberal arts was until I got into the Young India Fellowship program. So just to, if any one of you are a little bit confused as to what liberal arts is, even I was confused at one point of time. Only when I went to the Young India Fellowship was I exposed to what liberal arts was. So basically, it's a Ivy League system. So for example, in India, if I cracked my 12 exams and I want to go and study sociology, for example, I am confined to studying sociology for my next 3 years. Even if my interest lies in literature, I am not allowed to study literature because of the system. So I end up taking sociology for 3 years. And likewise, people end up taking subjects that they're not comfortable with because they are required to take that subject. One example, if I want to study literature, but if my class 12 percentage is not high enough for me to get a seat in literature, I am compelled to study another subject because of my percentage. And I end up studying that subject for the rest of the graduation. But in countries like the US, in Ivy League especially, you can study, you can take a major in literature, you can take a minor in economics, you can take a minor in theater, you can take a minor in statistics. So basically, the education system allows you to study any kind of subject that you are interested in. So that's what liberal arts was. And when I went to Young India Fellowship, that's what we did. In 1 year, we studied more than 30 subjects. So I came from a social work background. I did +1 and 2 in science, and then I shifted my subject to social work, and then I went into Young India Fellowship. So my mind was very narrow-minded. I only knew about social work as a subject. My idea, my knowledge of other subjects were confined to a very narrow space. But when I went to Young India Fellowship program, in that 1 year, we studied 30 plus subjects. So for example, we studied subjects like Shakespeare. What is that subject? We studied 3 plays of Shakespeare. The professor would really take us through the in-depth meaning of each of this play. And as our assignment, we have to enact plays on Shakespeare or make up our own reimagined stories of Shakespeare. Example, we had to study Western philosophy, Indian philosophy. We studied mathematics. We studied statistics. We studied economics. We studied filmmaking. We studied literature. So basically, we studied everything. And what happened was the objective of that was to sort of equip our minds with all kinds of knowledge. So later on, for example, if a person with an economics background gets a job, he or she will only be able to look at problems from an economic perspective. But if you have been exposed to all of the subjects like in liberal arts, you have the potential, you have the capacity to look at the problem from an economical perspective, from a philosophical perspective, from a literature perspective. And that's what liberal arts does. And what I want to say is, now, if you think about my life, my career, I did 11 and 12 in I took science in 11 and 12 because my parents wanted me to be a doctor. But that did not work out, so I ended up taking social work. And then after social work, I did liberal arts. After liberal arts, I went to Europe to do human rights. Then I came back home. I started working with human rights organization. Then I moved on to a think tank, political think tank. Then I worked with a leadership development company. Then I worked with a higher education institute. Then now I came back home to start my own NGO. And now I have started my own institute. So basically, my life is like a salad in terms of my career and my academics. It's a salad. But what has helped me to navigate all of this is because of my exposure to liberal arts. Had I not studied liberal arts in my Young India Fellowship, I guess I would only be looking at my future and my career from a social work perspective. Do my bachelor's in social work, do my master's in social work, get a job in an NGO and work. That would have been my life. Now, what I am sharing is completely out of my own experience. So people might be able to relate or people might not be able to relate. But what I'm trying to say is in my career, in my experience, liberal arts played a very important role to help me become the person that I am. Had I not been exposed to liberal arts, I am pretty sure that my understanding of the world or my ability to tackle situations and problems and deal with people might have been smaller. My capabilities, my capacities might have been smaller. But because of my experience in liberal arts, I have been able to do all of this. For example, right now, if I talk about anything, I am able to always go back to my liberal arts exposure and provide some kind of, some kind of contribution to any kind of discussion that I might be able to have. And that is how liberal arts have shaped me.